The precision and jazz basses are the most recorded bass models in the history of music. Learn all the differences and pick the one that's perfect for you. Historical differences. When Leo Fender came up with the precision bass in the late 40s, bass players weren't just competing with drums, horns, strings, and an increasing number of plugged guitars. They were also carrying a huge instrument everywhere to barely hear themselves. When the Fender Precision Bass came out in October 1951, it changed the game for good. When you think about it, it's hard to imagine a single piece of equipment that solves so many issues at the same time. Life changed so much for bass players overnight that shortly after, these were the absolute standard. This isn't a bit of innocuous historical data. It means until the mid-60s, the Fender Precision Bass reigned supreme on the stage and in the studio. Famous in the hands of Carol Kaye, credited for playing in over 2,000 hits as a member of the Wreckin' Crew. She played in all the classic Beach Boys records, for example. That booming, thumping tone is right at the heart of many musical styles, like funk, Motown, pop, and rock and roll, among many others. But the 60s were an earthquake in music history. Suddenly, the world was in Technicolor, and the precision got old. Fender made the deluxe version of the idea, the jazz bass, which could appeal to jazz players for its faster neck and cleaner pickups. What they could have never foreseen was just how far players like Jaco Pastorius were going to take it. Slap players like Flea favor it too.
With the thumb, and then with this one.
And its versatility opened doors to let the sun in, so music could blossom. The infamous S-shape. The 60s were groovy. Nevertheless, most players met the offset body guitars through the 90s bands. Well, just like the Jazzmaster, released in 1959, abandoned the soft curves, the jazz bass debuted in 1960. Has a bigger bottom part that's asymmetrical and is long enough to hold the extra knob. Looking at it from behind, it might look like an S. The other difference is that, depending on the manufacturing years, the body reliefs and contours make the jazz bass more comfortable for playing standing up. That said, it can be a bit more neck heavy when played sitting, while the P bass is perfectly balanced in that position. Purists tend to hate the extra chunk of wood because it takes out all the symmetrical elegance Leo's designs are famous for. Others embrace their quirky uniqueness and slap the night away. Neck width. When Leo designed the jazz bass, he wanted to capture a market that was elusive to his creations. He knew that the most important thing for a musician that's going to play so many notes so fast every night was a neck that felt like a highway. While the P bass neck is traditionally rounder and slightly fatter, the jazz bass is as fast as it got back in the early 1960s. His prediction was correct. His fancy new creation made way into the jazz world. Again, what he didn't know was that it was going to push people like John Paul Jones galloping into the unknown on board one of those. For players who own both models, going back and forth between them can make them play differently. As all players know, the neck of the instrument can be a deal maker or a deal breaker. The nut. Width is important for how the neck feels while moving up and down, but the nut is the true test of how comfortable a neck is. This is a big difference between these models. While the nut in a Fender American Professional 2 P bass is 1.625 inches, the Fender American Professional 2 Jazz Bass is 1.5 inches. It might not seem like much, but many players spend most of the time in that area, trying to lock with that kick drum and make people dance. This is the final touch to one of the most comfortable bass necks ever designed, the jazz bass. The pickups. The first pickup in a precision bass wasn't too different from that on a Telecaster. In fact, not everyone knows this, but the headstock looked like that too. Sting plays his 50s models often. The P bass went through an intermediate design in 1954, but found its final form in 1957. The split coil design is capable of some serious low end. The location and the shape make the mid-range darker, so it feels more like a thump. If not kept in check though, the low end can get muddy or too big. On the other hand, the jazz bass shines in clarity. The bridge pickup is perfect for playing fast lines, never losing a note. Cranking everything turns any jazz bass into a slapping machine. And the neck pickup is perfect for a thumping P-bass style groove.
Maybe.
The P-bass, on the other hand, isn't a versatile instrument, but what it does it like no other. Electronics. The precision bass offers only two controls, a volume and a tone knob. The jazz bass, on the other hand, has three black knobs. The individual volume pot for each pickup allows the player to create a custom blend. The last is a master tone. Those are the classic layouts, but modern versions like the Fender Ultra series feature active preamps and noiseless pickups. Humming? The split coil pickup in the P-bass not only sounds like nothing else, but also has no hum. Yes, Leo took a coil and divided it in two, then gave each part a reverse polarity by winding it in reverse. As a result, the P-bass is a hum-free instrument. In a jazz bass, unless you keep both pickups acting like a humbucker, you'll get hum. Hence, you'll find jazz bass models with noiseless pickups, like the Fender Ultra series. For players who like to get that ultra-compressed tone that lifts the noise floor drastically, the precision is the way to go. But the jazz bass is still more versatile and can give that edge with a bridge pickup alone that's impossible with a P-bass. Versatility versus one-trick pony. In the 60s, the musical revolution changed everything, and we're still enjoying the reverberation of that earthquake. Players were expanding the capabilities of their instruments, and rock and roll was taking over the world. That revolution needed firepower, and the precision was thumping and powerful, but couldn't compete with what rock guitarists were doing. When players discovered the sharp edge of the bridge pickup in the mix of a rock band, there was no turning back. The bass became an instrument capable of taking a leading role. For example, it's difficult to imagine a song like The Who's My Generation without that sound. Now, when trying to make a jazz bass sound like a precision, cranking the neck pickup and working the tone knob can take it close to a P-bass, but there's no way to chase any kind of sound close to the bridge pickup of a jazz bass playing a precision. That said, the P-bass is one of those rare cases in which you plug an instrument and it instantly sounds great. Of course, you can equalize it, compress it, and modify it as much as you like, but it's so familiar and ubiquitous that it's iconic and unmistakable. The split coil design might be from 1957, but it's still as relevant and current today as it was back then. The massive low end. One of the main assets of a precision bass is that it's enough to fill any track. For example, when locking with the bass drum, it occupies the perfect space in the mix to complement it and make one thumping instrument. That's one of the reasons Motown bass lines by legends like James Jamerson on songs like What's Going On by Mark Gaye could move an entire dance floor. The quality in all P-bass models is their main character. They're thumpy, big, and round, bottom end. The thing is that if it ever becomes too much, it's hard to get rid of it with only tone and volume knobs. The affordable versions of this pickup don't use Alnico, but ceramic magnets. They usually have more gain and punch, but are less defined, and the low end can become too much. The jazz bass, on the other hand, can get some generous lows, but most bass players agree that's not the same as the precisions. They just sound different. When Leo left to found Music Man, he put the humbucker in the Stingray closer to the bridge to make it brighter. Players like Flea turned that edge meets muscle tone into a career. The pushing high end. Bass players are double agents. They're part of the rhythm section, but are also part of the melodic and harmonic elements on the song. While the precision bass has that magic quality of sitting perfectly in any mix, the jazz bass can move back and forth from one team to the other. For example, Larry Graham from Sly and the Family Stone played all his iconic moves because the bass could cut through the dense mix with keyboards, vocals, and more. The three main sounds of the jazz bass ensure there's plenty to choose from. If the player wants to lock in with the kick drum, blasting that neck pickup makes it part of the rhythm team. Cranking both pickups, the riffing and the slapping take to a whole new level. Finally, cranking that bridge pickup and playing with a pick, those lead lines can cut through or become the backbone of a punk rock band, especially with a maple neck. The pushing high end is to jazz bass what the low end is to the precision bass. Hence, PJ configuration basses are very common. The neck pickup sounds big and fat, while the bridge single coil pickup adds edge. Blending the two is like ignoring the rules of time and space, creating a new sound that's none of the original. Those who can afford it, though, have one or more of each.